Rome, summer 99 BC. Fierce battles are taking place in East Rome between Roman and Seleucid soldiers. Decimus Lepidus and his son Tiberius lead the Lepidus Legion. They have captured the city of Arbela, but more and more Seleucid enemies gather outside its walls. Roman assassins murdered the Persian general. Upon hearing this, the commanding officer Decimus Lepidus leaves the city and the gates of Arbela. He is on the hunt. He has already obtained one of those legendary silver shields. Elite phalanx. They flow back to where they came from, carrying their dead leader, towards Babylon and Seleucia. Decimus leaves the city and the gates behind. There, he encounters a Roman general, the reinforcements, an African Roman ally, a fresh new army from the south of Rome, from Africa, an army from the forces of the legendary Africanus, 3,000 men strong. The warriors of the Garamantes are masters of the hit-and-run tactic. From their oasis fortresses, they launch attacks on cities, outposts, watchtowers, and nomadic tribes. They fight primarily with throwing spears and javelins, but can also hold their ground or defend themselves in close combat with their spears and leather shields when necessary. They wear ostrich feathers attached to their heads to appear more intimidating and imposing, as well as a cowhide cloak for protection both on the battlefield and against the natural environment. Historically, the Garamantes were a group of Berber tribes living in North Africa on the edge of the Sahara. They herded livestock and cultivated irrigated fields. They conducted raids against cities in the north and the nomadic Saharan peoples known as troglodytai by the Greeks. The Garamantes reached their dominance in the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD and are often referred to as one of the first major Berber nations. They fought on foot, from horseback, and with chariots. Much of the evidence of their equipment comes from their own rock art and Egyptian paintings of Libyan soldiers. Herodotus describes the Garamantes as a wild and aggressive tribe who pursued the troglodytai, but also states that they are a people who understand little about warfare. Herodotus made the Garamantes famous through his imaginative account of the cattle they possessed, allegedly having horns so long that they had to graze backward. African warriors who have learned to take down a lion with just one spear throw. Even elephants. 3,000. African elite hunters from the steppe. Decimus sees his opportunity to settle the score with the Persians in the region. The allied warlord is eager to go into battle and win glory and honor at the forefront. For Rome, under Decimus' command, the army advances from the foreign general into the fight. Decimus pursues fleeing enemies. He orders his army to retreat behind the walls of Arbela. During this time, his son Tiberius is to govern the city. Decimus takes a daring attempt. He pursues the fleeing Persians, accompanied by the African reinforcements. The Persian troops are leaderless and without orders. The Roman Empire has bitten off the snake's head. Decimus spreads fear and terror. In his hunt for the enemy, he encounters a hostile army. The African allies fight like wild animals and let their spears speak. Hailstorms of spears rain down on the enemy. It becomes brutal. The enemy flees in droves. The African hunters join in and surround one Persian phalanx after another. Decimus Lepidus is not done yet. After routing one army, he advances to another. This one joins the allied Persian troops. Decimus massacres everyone in his path. The Persian phalanxes have heavy armor and can only move through the forest like turtles. If one stumbles, it's like a death sentence. After routing another army, Decimus continues to advance and attacks the next mass of enemies. The Persian mob tries to retreat into the mountains, but Decimus is relentless and unleashes the Africans. Numidia produces some of the finest cavalry units in all of Africa, if not the entire western Mediterranean region. Equipped with javelins, these mounted skirmishers can become a nightmare for an opponent as it is practically impossible to pin them down in combat. Their tactic is to bombard the enemy with deadly volleys of javelins and then quickly withdraw when they are attacked. Essentially, they will slaughter the enemy with javelins if they stand their ground, and if they flee, the Numidian cavalry can pursue them. As instinctive riders, the Numidians are famous for not using saddles or reins. Instead, they only use a stick to steer their horses. Nevertheless, it is said that they move with the grace of a flock of birds. Adapted to the rugged expanses of their homeland, Numidian riders possess great endurance and are also experts in their form of the Cantabrian Circle. Historically, the Numidian cavalry, like their foot companions, did not consist of trained soldiers like in Roman and Hellenistic armies, but rather of shepherds, farmers, and similar professions. As a result, these men were easily defeated and performed poorly when engaged in close combat. However, they were extremely skilled skirmishers, and their continued tactic of hit and run as well as their equestrian abilities allowed them to defeat better armored, and trained soldiers. The swiftness of the Numidians primarily helped them to disengage from combat when needed, but it also made them excellent cavalry for pursuing fleeing enemies and swiftly galloping across the battlefield to provide assistance when necessary. The generals who recognized and properly utilized these abilities became famous and, in turn, made the Numidian cavalry famous. The Numidian cavalry was present in almost every engagement of the Second Punic War and many of the First, also contributing to Roman dominance in the Third. The Numidian cavalry continued to serve as reliable Roman auxiliaries well into the Roman Empire, fighting, among other places, in Dacia under Emperor Trajan and depicted on his eponymous column. Mauritanian infantry are fast-moving skirmisher troops employed by the Carthaginians and Berber tribal chiefs. They are recruited from the westernmost provinces of North Africa, a land known for its warriors and their unique fighting style. They are armed with javelins and a sword of North African origin, similar to the takuba used by the Tuareg today. The Moors are protected by an elephant hide shield and wear an animal fur tunic that they use as a chest plate. They should avoid getting entangled in close combat as they excel at harassing the enemy with their javelins. Their tactic is to bombard the enemy with deadly volleys of javelins and then quickly withdraw when attacked. Historically, the Moors were very similar to their Numidian neighbors. Greek and Roman historians state that they were darker than other North African tribes, to the extent that they were called Western Ethiopians. They were also great warriors and were mentioned by Hannibal in his inscription in Italy as one of the units of troops. Decimus is in a frenzy of bloodlust. He continues riding with his legionaries, heading towards the enemy. Around him, fleeing Persians as far as the eye can see. He spots another Persian mass of troops, which he overwhelms with his African tribal warriors. A horde of unwashed black Africans, their throwing strength is 5 times superior to the local troops. They can throw an elephant off a whale's saddle. The hungry savages descend upon the fleeing Persian troops. To the Africans, the Persian warriors with their well-built bodies, oily eyes, and hair are beautiful, and they smell good. The phalangites resist desperately. Those lucky enough run into the forests, towards Babylon. Decimus advances further with his black lance. The Numidian riders prove to be useful cavalry, especially due to their overwhelming numbers. The enemies run in fear. Many Persian warriors have never seen an African before. Black naked figures wrapped in furs, half human, half animal. First, the young prince of Babylon was assassinated, the leader and head of the Babylonian forces. They stood alone before the walls of Arbela, surrounded by Romans. What could they do but flee? And now this. During their escape through the forests, these black figures appear, with blowpipes, in tow with their heavy armor and gear. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, spears fly, the enemy flees. One Persian phalanx after another falls victim to the Roman African allied troops. The Numidian warriors darken the sky and let spears rain, all day if necessary. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. Check it out.
Sieg!
Denkt dran, dass ich meinen Inhalt erstelle, indem ich mit dem Gesicht über die Tastatur rolle. Es ist die wahrste Form der Inhaltsentwicklung. Und vergiss nicht zu abonnieren.